It has been a busy off-season for the Arizona Coyotes, who are still in the midst of their rebuild. Robyn Leano of Locked On Coyotes joins us to discuss the latest on the arena situation and on the rebuild in Arizona. All that and more on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. And now you can also find us on SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just do a search for Locked On NHL. It is great to welcome back to the show the co-host of Locked On Coyotes, Robyn Leano. And Robyn, it's a busy offseason in Arizona. Let's start with the big picture stuff. What is the latest on the arena situation out in the desert?
So we haven't heard much since the draft. The draft was the last thing we heard. Any sort of at least, I wouldn't even say substantial, but some kind of information. We heard Coyotes president and CEO Javier Gutierrez speak to the media at the draft and said, we are currently in talks of about 6 or so sites, mainly in Scottsdale, in Mesa, and in Phoenix, I think, and as well as I think Chandler, if I'm not mistaken. There's all in the east side of the Phoenix Valley. One of the rumored sites, this was not confirmed, but it's been confirmed not by the Coyotes, but by the reservation on exclusive talks on a potential piece of land on their land on the East Valley as well. So there are options, but there's nothing substantial. They do have a soft deadline for themselves to get a final deal in place. And that's by around January of 24. That's when they want to make sure they have as many things in place as possible to move forward. But other than that, nothing really substantial to really report on.
And then just to give us an idea, let's say they have their choices, lined up by January 2024. Will there be another vote necessary? What is the process? Where does it go from there?
Yeah, so the Arizona Coyotes have made it clear that they do not want to go through a public vote again. So they were going to be going through every means necessary to do that. That is one of the reasons why the Indian community is one of the options that they are currently in exclusive talks with, because that will require zero vote at all. They are, other sites include, county islands and other privately owned parcels of land that will require no vote, because it just requires just a private land sale. So they're just doing their best to make sure it doesn't go to that, because they've seen what happens if that does happen.
Well, let's hope that they are able to line up a new site and a new home soon to sort of finalize this and put it to bed. As far as the offseason is concerned on the ice, what moves do you think were the best that the team has made since the offseason started?
Oh, I think the Arizona Coyotes, that first day of free agency, I made a comment saying, if there's a winner in the first day of free agency, it's the Arizona Coyotes. I think the couple of the players I'm thinking of getting Zucker signed, as trying to think some of the other ones. Yeah, getting Nick Butstag back, getting Troy Stetcher back. They really, really went for it, and it really tells me that they are trying to move towards being a more competitive team. Are they going to be even close? Are they going to be a bubble team or a playoff team? No. but they're going to be a lot more competitive than they were in the last couple of years. I do not think we are now officially past the tanking years for the part of the rebuild players and the Coyotes. They are now on the like slightly bit like, they're ready to kind of just like bump up and emerge just a little bit.
Well, that's definitely a positive sign. I mean, I know there's been a lot of draft picks also over the last couple of years. Who are some of the young people in the pipeline right now for the Coyotes that give this organization hope that they will compete soon for a playoff spot?
Yeah, I actually got a chance to go to the prospect development camp a couple weeks ago, and we got a chance to get a decent look at some of the top prospects like Logan Cooley and Sam Lipkin. Those two, I think, are the ones that are really getting a really extra attention. Those two players participated in the NCAA championship a few months ago, so like people already know their names. It's outside of that, I think, Maverick Lamoureux has kind of flown under the radar. I think he's really improved after having to miss the previous prospect development camp. I really liked seeing, I really think he's a potential to make it up there. And I really think though the Julian Lutz Julian Lutz, I want to say, like, he was a later round pick in the not this last draft, but the previous draft. And he's looked great. He looked great at camp. And I really got to say he's got a great shot. I think, fans should be excited to see him. It's going to take a couple of years still, but I think they should be excited to see him down the road.
And as far as the rest of this offseason, do you anticipate any more moves, or is this more or less where we're going to be when training camp opens up?
I think for the most part, that is where they're pretty set in stone. I think they still have about one player left they do need to sign that was based off their RFAs. Or a couple, just a couple. I think they still need to sign Jack McBain. I think that's the most important thing. Jack McBain requested arbitration from his RFA rights, and so we'll have to wait and see what comes out of that. But I think that's the only holdout that they were really focusing on, making sure they get done. So McBain was impressive last year, so I really think that they are going to try to do what they can to keep him.
And what position on this team do you think will take the biggest jump between last year's unit and this year's?
I really think the defense is going to take a big jump. The last couple years, the defense were not good. It was not good at all. They had Jacob Chikrin for the majority of the year, but even then he was already on his way out, so they sat him for so many games at a time. But picking up, bringing back Troy Stecher again, like I mentioned earlier, I think that was huge. Bringing in a player like Sean Dursey, what I think was absolutely huge. JJ Mosier and Yusuf Alamaki were two returning names. I think they are going to make a huge impact in this next season. They were great last season. They were absolutely amazing. So we'll see what they do this upcoming year. But I'm pretty hopeful that they're going to make a big step.
All right. Well, Robyn, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find the podcast everywhere you get your podcast. We're also now on the SiriusXM radio app. You can follow me on social media at Robyn_Leano, and the podcast is at LO_Coyotes.
All right, Robyn, thank you so much for joining us today. Always a pleasure talking hockey with you.
Of course.
Today's episode is brought to you by a product I literally use every day, AG1. Maybe you're like me, you want to be healthy and eat well, but it's always easier said than done. That's no longer the case with AG1. With one delicious scoop of AG1 in a glass of water each day, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all these things. An AG1 costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, but it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/NHL network. That's drinkag1.com/NHL network. Check it out.